and welcome to another episode of Tracy Takes On, the show about all things politics. I am joined this evening by my panelist slash guest host, Charles. Charles Webb, hello to the camera.
Hi, everybody.
We are going to get started right off of the top with some interesting news. I don't know if you were watching yesterday, but Trump held a rally in the South or North Carolina Republican convention and decided to pick up right where he started from, saying the election was stolen.
Yeah, I kind of heard about that somebody, God, I can't think of who it is now, thought that he should be like the Speaker of the House.
Yeah, so a newspaper, I was going to get to that too. So a newspaper columnist suggested to him running for Congress so that he could become Speaker of the House and impeach both, was it just Nancy Pelosi or was it Joe Biden? It was one or the other, or perhaps both of them. And I just thought his ego will not let him run for Congress. I can't see it. I don't understand it, but a lot of people are like, no, he could do it and then run for president in 2024. But I'm like, I just can't see. You used to be president, you held that title, but now you're going to downgrade yourself to Congress. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, and it's talk that, these conspiracy theorists are believing that some miraculous way he's going to be back into the White House in August. So,
yeah, it's August the 4th. Yeah, that's the day we better look for. I'm like, no, we know who won the election.
I still think, he still has all these legal issues that he's dealing with. I mean, they're dealing with his CFO right now. So it just sounds like they got the goods on him and he's cooperating. That's what I hear, but until something happens, that's it, just what I hear. But I don't think that he would want to go to prison for Trump. And I can't think of anything that he could do if he's faced with prison, other than throw Trump under the bus. So
yeah, but you're assuming, see, that's the thing. I think even if he gets indicted, I still don't think that Trump's going to see any prison time. I just can't see it. Of course, I'm hoping against hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping, because that's where he should be for at least the insurrection and all the other things. But I can't see him being handcuffed, prison, and taken jail. Maybe time served, maybe something like that. But prison, I don't see prison in his future. But I've been wrong before. I was wrong about Biden winning, because I sure thought he was going to lose. So I could be very well wrong about that. But Trump, he's assuming a lot of things to me. One, he's assuming that the Republicans are going to win the House, and maybe they will because there's a slim majority now. But then it's either he doesn't know the rule, the reporter doesn't know the rules of to impeach a president and how many votes you actually have to do that. So
all you have to have is the majority.
I'm sorry, in the Senate. You have to have 60 votes in the Senate.
That's to convict him, but I'm saying to impeach him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But you're not, if you had all 48, and I'm not counting Manchin and I'm not counting Sinema, although I think they would vote against impeachment, you don't have enough even to have a hearing.
Well, no, just like they didn't have enough to impeach him before.
So they had enough to impeach him. They didn't have enough to convict him.
Well, that's what I meant. They didn't have enough.
They don't have, in this case, let's just say that Trump was made Speaker of the House. Okay, again, he's just assuming that the House is going to flip over to Republican. But okay, let's just assume that happens. Then it's got to go through the House, barely pass there, and then somehow get to the Senate. it's not going to pass because
Well,
if
you have to also too, what are the, you talking about impeach, well, you have to have a reason to
yeah, then
impeach.
that's the other thing. I was like, well, what reason would he come up that he stole the election? I mean, I'm like, no, that's what I said. I People are saying this like it's really gonna happen, and I'm just like, I don't see it because it makes no sense. He would
It
have
does,
literally nothing except for he doesn't like the fact that he lost to him. Okay,
exactly.
that's not a reason to impeach somebody. Um, so I thought that was really interesting. Another thing I thought was interesting, speaking of Biden, is our least favorite Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has decided that she wants answers about the COVID-19 vaccine and has demanded answers. And I'm like, no, no, no one's scared of you, Marjorie. No, nobody's scared of you.
I don't know what type of answers is she looking for.
She's saying that, the American people have a right to know the origin of the virus, which apparently she used to deny. So now I guess she's admitted there is
Well,
a virus.
well,
Because
we're not talking about the vaccine, we're talking about the disease.
yeah, the virus. That's why I said the virus. She wants to know she in this letter apparently she's demanding to know where the virus came from. Well, first I thought she completely denied the virus because she wouldn't wear a mask and got fined for not wearing a mask. So now she's saying that it is a. I'm like, well, okay, so now you're saying there is a virus, and now you're demanding answers from the president. He's not going to answer you at all. It's like, so I wish somebody would just tell her, look, you're not on the committee, sit down and shut up. But she's not going to because she's raising a ton load of money.
She's trying to stay relevant, you know. Uh, we'll see if she even keeps her seat.
That's
Uh,
a highly Republican district. I don't see her losing. But again, I've
you
been
know,
wrong before.
I'm just thinking, some people are waking up because, they saw how the Republicans dealt with this virus, as far as assistance, and the it's totally different the way it's being dealt with now since the change of administration. And maybe some people are waking up, maybe not. Maybe they'll stay on their riding their horses of racism. So
Well, you got to think mostly every state is getting more voter restrictions happening, so maybe they will succeed because the courts are basically those are all Trump appointees basically. So who knows whether they're going to overturn all these ridiculous laws. H1 HR1, I forget what it's always called. The voting rights bill can't get passed, and that's the next topic we'll get into because you have Democrats that won't suspend the filibuster to get it passed. So maybe they will succeed. And
well, maybe then it doesn't even make a difference because Manchin said he wasn't going to support the voting right
yeah, he
bill.
already said he wasn't, and Cinnamon won't either. And so
Yeah,
without those two, it's like, okay, we really don't.
a
That's
filibuster wouldn't make a difference then if those two aren't gonna support it.
exactly. And so I know that that's what the Republicans are banking on, and I don't see them not failing at it. I think they're going to come unless people get so angry at what they're doing that they vote anyway. That would be the only thing that I could think that could deter what's happening.
Well, it's whatever they're throwing at us, we need to be ready. If we can't address it in the court or get any satisfaction from the court, then we got time to get ready.
Okay, I'm going to pause you here for a second because I got some technical difficulties in the background. Okay, Charles, pick up with your point, please.
I was saying that there's time before the next election, and people should make sure that they're ready and adhere to, whatever stuff is being thrown at them.
But
And
and I get what you're saying, but my point is, I think for most people, if they get that many obstacles, will they really take it to the finish line and finish voting? Or will they get discouraged at the beginning and then say, oh, forget about it?
I'm not sure, I'm just, uh, it's almost like they're taking the powers away from people who wouldn't confirm Trump, regardless if they're um, a Democrat or Republican. And
Exactly.
and it's like, it don't matter what the vote says, that will determine the outcome. And if that's the case, you it's a constitutional crisis that you're taking away the vote. You're talking about interrupting democracy. I'm not sure. These states. I understand they have rights, but the right to cheat. I like I say, I really don't. I don't even know why they need a Voting Right Act. They have the 14th Amendment that gives people the 15th Amendment gives people the right, the citizens the right to vote. That's a law, okay? And that law, they that the federal government has the power over the states, as far as I understand the Constitution. Anything in the Constitution, uh, any laws in the Constitution that the federal government can compel or make the state comply. They have the right. Anything not in the Constitution, the state has the right. That's from the 10th Amendment. It says what you can the federal government cannot infringe upon the state's rights uh, unless it's exclusively expressed in the Constitution.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm gonna have to really, really disagree. Not disagree. I believe that we need a voters' right act, and here's why. You have too many states passing too many restrictive laws to make it impossible for people of color to vote. For example, in one state, they said that they were closing down the majority of democratically held polling places. But yet, all the Republican polling places, they remained open. And if you look at, I think the city was Dallas. If you look at all those polling sites that closed, most of them were serving Black and brown people. That's one reason. The second reason is we know there are people out here apparently that can't take the fact that they lost an election and want to say things such as Hugo Chavez, who I think died in like the 60s or 70s, one of those two, had something to do with Trump losing the election. I'm like, okay, sit down. Um,
Okay.
I'm one of those people that believes that we need to do everything that we can to strengthen voter laws, such as same day registration, getting voters' days off. That's what I believe. But because we have Manchin and Sinema and Republicans in, that's not even going to pass. It's just not. But
Then
I think that's
if
why we need the voter law.
okay, if you pass the voter law, are the states uh, are the states forced to comply? That's my
Now,
question.
from my understanding, and again, I do additional research. From my understanding, this would be a federal law, so they would have to comply with
Well, federal law is that law expressed in the Constitution? If the law ain't expressed in the Constitution, the states that do not have to comply.
I think the way they wrote the bill, it's pretty set in stone because of the way, and I, of course, this is by watching what I've been watching and researching what I'm researching. The way that the bill is written, there's no way that Georgia, Florida, Texas, Arizona, Iowa could pass all of these voter suppression laws where they're closing up polling sites. They're saying you can't vote on Sunday like there's no other day of the week. They can't do certain things. Now, whether the states would say, no, that's not expressed, and then take that to court, that's a whole nother discussion. But it's not even going to pass the Senate because we already have Mitch McConnell saying anything that Biden does, he's voting against it. And we have Manchin saying he's not going to vote for it because he doesn't think it's needed. Sinema, she's voting against it because she doesn't think it's needed. So it's pretty much DOA. It's just not even going to pass.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that, okay, why aren't they enforcing the 15th Amendment? That's my question. There,
Now that I don't know the answer to. That's
okay.
the part I don't know the answer to.
That is the law, okay? That is the law, and the states have to follow the Bill of Rights and all the amendments that came after it. You know, anything else, the state has their rights, but the 15th Amendment is expressed in the Constitution. So if they're denying people the right to vote, I don't know, why aren't they uh, why aren't they enforcing it? They already have a Voting Right Act out there, the Voting Right Act of, what was it, 1965. And, and we still have the problem. So obviously the states aren't uh, aren't complying with that with the act. Now we want to pass another act, and I don't know. I hope it leads to something, but I'm just
The bill that they have now it's not even going to get a hearing because that just won't happen. I mean, it's just. But from my understanding, it's always been that yes, we've always had the 15th Amendment since it was signed. But of course, we had Jim Crow laws where states were coming up with means testing so that people could vote. That was breaking the law, but they still, they didn't enforce it. Don't know. Yeah, I do know why. But that's a good question that I don't have the answers to at all. I wish I did, but in this case, I really don't because again, we do have the 15th Amendment, but we also have the interpretation of the Constitution, which people are still arguing about. So um, that's a good thought to lean in towards. I also wanted to talk about the waste of time. Well, I don't think it's a waste of time. I don't know how you'll phrase it, but I think I know the January 6th Commission and its non-passage in Congress or by the Senate.
well, my opinion is that this whole thing should be in criminal court. Okay, you know, after these people have been prosecuted, I think it's 550 people that are supposed to be prosecuted. Then maybe then come back to Congress and figure out what happened. I don't think they'll get the votes because it's going to implicate some of these congressional members,
Well,
and
it
they don't
passed the
want to be
House. It
blamed.
passed the House, but it did not pass the Senate.
Well, yeah, it passed the House because all you need is a majority of the House, but then you need 60 votes in the Senate. The Republicans didn't vote for the commission in the House. It was just basically the Democrats.
No,
And I
that's
think,
not true. There were 3 Republicans that
well,
voted,
okay, well,
but the
I'm
majority.
sure
You're
these
right. The
were
majority did vote
Republicans.
against it.
I'm sure these were Republicans that didn't have any skin in that game, okay, and want to get to the truth of what really happened. I heard that uh, Swalwell has sued Mo Brooks in court to tell what happened in the insurrection. See how far that goes. That heard that news yesterday.
Yeah, Swalwell and another congressperson are suing Trump.
No, not Trump. He was suing Mo. The is Mo Brooks a senator or a representative? He's suing Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks is a congressional member. I don't know if he belongs to the House or the Senate, but that's who he's Swalwell is suing.
So Swalwell is suing the the legislator for what again?
To tell what happened in the June 6th insurrection.
You mean January 6th?
January 6th. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like, but wait a
January.
minute, today is wait a minute, it just happened
Yeah,
yesterday.
January 6th, right.
Um, so did that legislator, like, is he one that gave some tours? Because I'm like, there's some people's names that should be like removed from Congress once we find out that they gave tours.
Well, like I say, it should be in criminal court. I mean, the FBI should be investigating this. I can't imagine that they're not investigating this, but you know, it's almost to me like the Civil War, okay? At the end, most of the privileged people from the South were welcomed back into the Union. The people who conspired to have this war. It just seemed like Black people were the ones who were treated bad. I mean, after the war was over, then you start having all your laws and stuff, and just back to discrimination again. But they welcome these people. These people should have went to prison for conspiracy of war. Uh, creating this uh, Confederate democracy or whatever it was, and starting war against the United States. But they welcomed these people back into the fold and stuff when they should have been sending them to prison. I'm not talking about the little poor dumb Confederate that was stupid enough to pick up arms against the Union, because they punished a lot of those. But the high up rich people, they weren't punishing them.
Well, that's the thing with this one that
And
makes it so similar is you have essentially a group of white nationalists that decided they didn't like the. Well, no, let me backtrack. Trump basically told them to go and protest. They listened, and they're not being held accountable to the extension that they should. Because I'm pretty sure you agree, if most of those protesters were Black, they would never have gotten that far.
well,
They
yeah,
would,
I agree with that,
um,
because white people have rights. Black people don't have rights like that. We still second class citizens. We will always be second class citizens, but they're still those people who did go and were identified, they're being punished, but your higher ups who, like you say, gave tours or who enabled this to happen, I just don't see the government going after them,
And they won't. And because the thing that you're not saying, and I'll say it, I don't doesn't matter whether people agree with me or not. I think some of the police officers had a lot to do with that because you could see them on video telling them, hey, come this way, come here, look at this space open. And I'm like, that doesn't look right to me. Of course, that will probably never be investigated because they wear a blue uniform. So it's
well, if they were video, caught on video, and it was in the media, I'm sure they're going to be prosecuted too.
but they have not been charged yet, and you can clearly see their face.
Well, it's some police that have been fired, and I'm sure they're going to be prosecuted. I mean, it's not easy to prosecute a police. I mean, you should know that.
Well, yeah.
It takes a minute, but I think they'll get theirs too. But these are people, the low level. I'm talking about the high level.
Yeah,
They
you're
should be,
talking about the Congress people and the so-called president, and
well, even the people who like the police chiefs and stuff who ignored the warnings of what could happen, and weren't prepared. And then the guy who was it? Flynn's brother that he delayed the uh, the National Guard coming to, and then I just found out the other day that, well, they removed him from that post, but they gave him another command in the Pacific. So
yeah, so he's not even getting punished. I mean, he's just being.
yeah,
It's just like the police officers that commit murder.
yep,
They get fired from one town, and then they go to a whole nother town and get hired again. It's like, okay, what was the point of that?
and and have you read the George Floyd bill, the police reform bill?
The one that I said doesn't do anything, and I don't know why they even wasted their time subscribing to it. Yes.
That thing couldn't even help. It couldn't help. If it had been passed prior to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, it couldn't have helped them because, again, you can't make laws to compel the states to do something. That bill only can only compel federal police.
Exactly. And I was like, what's the point of this? The point, there's no point. That's the kind of legislation that needs to be introduced in the individual states, not at a federal level, because the federal government doesn't normally fund the police. That's normally done in a local level.
Yeah, and that's what pretty much happened in Minnesota after the George Floyd, because I don't know if the state passed it, but the I think they lost their, what, I don't know, did they lose their qualified immunity?
That's the portion I can't remember because I know I read it and I was like, why did they even write this?
And I think that was at a local level, not a state level, a local government. Minnesota, Minneapolis changed their laws in the city after that happened. I know the only state I know who has done it is Colorado.
Yeah, I
And
was going to say California, but that wasn't right.
Colorado got rid of qualified immunity. They said that, and qualified immunity is just a made up law that the judges made up. And it wasn't passed as legislature. It was just a judge made law.
Yeah, so I've read it and I was just like, why did you waste time writing this? Because the only thing that the federal government can do is withhold its funding. But the majority of funding for police doesn't come from the federal government. So I'm like, okay, what's the point of this again? I just never did understand it.
Yeah, they could well, and then they also can offer funding. If you adopt this or if you do this, we'll give you money to uh, to help fund this, whatever it is they're asking, to be done. And I think, it was just a knee jerk reaction, and people were thinking that it was like throwing us a bone.
I
And
think it
people
was
weren't
done,
even paying
yeah.
attention. They didn't even read. I'm asking people, have you even read the reforms? And uh, who has to comply to it? A lot of people hadn't even read it. They don't
I
even
mean,
know.
most people aren't going to sit around and read legislation. That's just not what an average person is going to do. But I think the problem is with that, or at least to get some understanding, is to me it was just done for a PR move. It was like, okay, we'll do this to satisfy some people. It's not going to bring, obviously, it's not going to bring George Floyd back. It's not going to make the police officers jail time any longer. It's nothing that they're going to, nothing that that bill entitled, which wasn't very much, isn't going to do anything to change the vetting process of the police, which is problematic, the training of the police, which is problematic, and the funding of the police that's problematic. So I'm like, why write it in the first place? And I think the
I
reason
think to,
that
to appease the public. That's why
yeah,
they
it was
wrote it.
just to quiet down the black people, and we'll just
Stop
do this and we'll do
protesting.
it for you.
Stop rioting. Try to get them to stop protesting and stop rioting and
Now,
stuff.
luckily, the protests have not stopped. Now that I can say, because I saw some this weekend. I was like, good, don't keep protesting because that law
If
is
you think change, if you think that protesting will bring change, then right, you can't stop. You have to keep on until you reach a goal, not until you almost reach a goal, until you actually reach a goal, and then you stop.
yeah. But I'm glad that that bill, which I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm against it passing because I would have liked to seen it pass, but I knew it wasn't. I'm glad it didn't stop people from saying, hey, no, let's do this, do this, do this instead. I think, and I really think a lot of people are waking up to what, um, well, I would say a lot of people, except for, of course, minus our former vice president, who that's what I wanted to talk about. So he gave a speech, and I want to say it was CPAC, but he did it this weekend, where basically he sang the praises of Trump. He downplayed the January 6th insurrection. And I kept saying, okay, I think he wants to run in 2024. Because I couldn't figure out, I'm like, did he miss the part where the people who were storming the Capitol said to hang him? Or did he just not see that?
Well, and that's going to be hanging over his head all through the election. He's going to be on the defense all through the election for everything that went wrong. From everything that Trump did, the pandemic, the racial unrest, uh, all those things are going to be hanging over his head and stuff, and
He
will
won't.
he be able to?
If he runs, he won't even get out the primary Because you still have Trump supporters believing that he shouldn't have done his duty, which was to simply verify the election. They didn't realize, I'm like, that's ceremonial. He didn't have to do it. Trump still lost. It wouldn't have mattered if he did it or not did it. Trump would have still lost. But
But I'm saying even during the primary, they're gonna always bring this up. When he's trying to talk about something, I'm sure they're gonna interject whatever stuff went wrong, because he's gonna always be attached to Trump. He, it's just no way of getting away from that.
see, that's where I'm going to take a little bit. I mean, yeah, in some sense, he will always be attached to Trump, but I still think he's going to run. I still think his ultimate goal, now that he's gotten a little taste of power, is like, okay, I was vice president. Now I'm going to try to be president. He may not run in 2024, but he's still young enough to run in 2028.
Well, yeah, well, I guess we have to see
Yeah,
see what,
because
what
like I said,
happened between
if
20.
he ran right now at this moment, I don't even think he'd get out the primary because those Trump supporters, that's his party, and whoever he says is going to get the nomination.
I agree, but I don't care when he runs. They're still gonna bring this up, his past.
You think
you,
that
and
three
you
when is the next presidential election? 2024.
yeah.
You think 8 years from now in 2028, he's still going to have Trump attached to him?
There he is.
I
They're gonna
think
bring up
people forget.
stuff. They
People
always
forget.
want that. You want to put your opponent on the defense. If he's on the defense, that means he can't be out there campaigning because he's always trying to clarify whatever it is they're throwing back at him. Well, what happened with the letting people catch this, or the way you handled the COVID, you know.
Oh, according to them, they handled it just fine.
I'm sorry?
Now, according to them, they handled it just fine. And he actually did mention it. So I think he said something, and I wish I had the clip, where he basically said that we need to be thankful that the things that Trump did led to the vaccine.
Well, I
I was
mean,
like,
yeah, you can say that, but
I'm like, I don't know what car he had for
half a
sale.
million, over half a million people didn't have to die if you took some kind of action instead of sitting around waiting for the vaccine, saying that this this disease was a hoax. How you gonna say it's a hoax? Why would you need a vaccine if you saying that it was a
I'm
hoax?
just reporting what the man
I'm
was
saying,
suggesting.
I'm saying what's going. No, what I'm saying is the stuff that's going to be thrown at him. He won't make it out of primary ever. Just like Hillary. They will always attach Benghazi to her. We talking about years later. They'll always attach Benghazi. And Trump, they're always gonna attach the things he's done, the missteps that he's done.
And I think that duo, which wasn't that dynamic, is pretty much a done deal. I'm like, okay, these two are never going to speak to each other, possibly never again. And you're going to have a Trump wing of the party and a Pence wing of the party. And I think the Trump side is going to win because they have more people on their side.
Well, and they stick together. I mean,
They
just a
do.
few
I'll give
weeks
them much.
ago,
They do stick together.
Pence said he would still support Trump. Even after what he's done, he would still support him. So
yeah, and I'm like, did you know he criticized you specifically in that news article? And you're
I mean, unless he left the planet and went to Planet Stupid and just got back, I'm sure he knows. He has to know. He has people who know to tell him what he needs to know. No, I know he knows everything Trump said. He knows everything Trump did. You seen him dashing out of the Congress and stuff, trying to get away. If it was just tourists and stuff, why did y'all run? Y'all should have just stayed right there if y'all didn't think that your lives were in danger.
Well, yeah, like I said, that duo that probably never spoke to each other probably never will, because if the two of them are up against each other in a primary, Trump wins hands down. Hands down, all the time, Trump will win. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, last topic, and this one didn't make the news as much as I thought it would, but Jeb Bush's son, George P. Bush, yes, George P. Bush, is seeking the endorsement of Trump. And I was like, okay, do you remember what he said about your father?
I guess he didn't care what he said about his father. Maybe he doesn't have a good relationship with his
That's
father.
the only
You
thing
know,
that I could seek out, because I know the Bush family does not like Trump. I guess they have this one member of the family that apparently Trump has said that he's called him daddy. And I'm like, say that again. Literally, the whole thing shocked me, because I'm like, well, this is your father, Jeb Bush. He said that your father was, well, he basically called him, what did he call him? A bore and something else. I mean, he called him a bunch of names like he does everybody else. And you're seeking his endorsement. Okay, that's got to be either political play to suck up to him to get that base to run for him, or like you said, he and his father don't have a really good relationship, and he's like, okay, I'll show you. It's got to be one or the other,
or it could be both.
or it could be both.
He's
You're right, it
trying
could
to
be both.
trying to get trying to get elected. So
Yeah, I thought that was just really strange. I'm like, well, wait a minute, you're trying to get the vote, the blessing of a man that insulted not just his father, insulted his uncle, insulted his grandmother, insulted his grandfather, the whole family. And he's just like, okay. I'm like, how stupid are the Republicans to try to get this man who could possibly be in prison, hopefully, to get his endorsement for anything at any time?
I I don't know, and I guess I'll never know because that's not somebody I would be
The
inclined to
last person
support
whose
or
endorsement that I would want if I was a Republican. I'd be like, nope, no, thank you, no, thank you. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. You don't have to endorse me. It's okay. But apparently, he's really going after this endorsement, and apparently he's going to be getting it. So we'll see what happens with that. Um, so the last segment of the show, and I said this was going to be a short one, um, is your choice for idiot of the week.
God, I can't.
Oh boy, there's a whole bunch of them I got. A whole lot of them I got.
I had one last week, and God, I didn't forgot who it was. I need to start writing these down. You go first.
Okay, so my idiot of the week, well, it was a top. I really, 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 oh boy, I might decide to go out. Okay, so I really thought about this, and I'm gonna have to say it's Joe Manchin. I cannot understand why the Democratic Party will not primary this bohemian buffoon. He comes out and says that voting is a right and we need to protect it, yet he's going to vote against the Voters' Rights Act. I literally don't understand him. I don't understand why he says that the filibuster is good. I don't understand anything about him. How does he get elected? Why is he a Democrat? I literally don't understand. Joe Manchin, my idiot of the week.
I think I gotta leave it at that. I'm sure Matt Gates said something stupid during the past week, but I can't even think of any. God, I'm just drawing a blank. I know when we stop,
And
it'll
then
come.
you'll think of it. Yep, you should just definitely write it down.
I'll save it for next week. I'll have two idiots.
Well, I'll tell you this. It was great taping. Audience, I'm sorry. I was like ill for 2 weeks in a row. So I couldn't tape the way that I wanted to. But we will see you all. And so, Charles, I'm going to talk to the audience about supporting us on Patreon. I'll see you next week and have a fantastic day. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I wanted to do this pop-up announcement about two things. Number one, please, 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 please consider subscribing to this channel. We only have 50 likes, and my goal was at least 100 by this time, so we didn't meet it. But I'm going to be pushing for 100 subscribers, so please subscribe to this channel for Tracy Takes On the Progressive Queens. And starting July 5th, stay woke with Tracy. That's the first announcement. Second one is I need your support on Patreon. Patreon helps me to get equipment, and obviously you see I need better equipment because my lights are going out, and that equipment is something unfortunately I cannot afford. So your support on Patreon, you can start off as little as $3 or go up to $20. The link is in the description box, of course, so that you can start your support, and we greatly need it. Another announcement is that Tracy Media is going to start producing a documentary called You Make Me Sick. And it is about the plight or the fight to have single payer health care in the United States. Most industrialized countries have it. And if you don't know what that is, that simply means that the government pays for your health care. We'll explain the 2 or 3 cons, which there aren't very many. We'll talk to people about their personal stories. And we definitely are looking for people that are affected by or impacted by the healthcare system in its current state. If you've had trouble getting prior authorizations, you've had problems paying your hospital bills, you've had to file bankruptcy because you couldn't pay them, you can't afford your prescriptions, we definitely need to hear your voice. There's a form that I ask that you complete. It is in the description section also. And like I said, for the next couple of weeks, I'll be doing these pop-up videos to remind you, 1, subscribe to our page. Number 2, support us on Patreon. And number 3, I need you all, if you can, to be a part of You Make Me Sick, the documentary. And I thank you so much for tuning in. I'm very much appreciative of that. Let's get 100 subscribers. Let's get those Patreons coming in, and let's get this documentary made. I'm Tracy, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.